Gentlemen, we've been chatting for around about 45 minutes now, and I want to bring the panel to a close. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask each of you to make a short closing statement. And I want to go back to the topic at hand, and that is driving competitiveness through cooperation, integration, economic growth, leveraging the two big economies on the continent, namely South Africa and Nigeria, to drive that agenda. Professor Ncube, I'm going to start with you in terms of low-hanging fruit. I think as we move from this room into the main World Economic Forum on Africa venue, we can take this upon ourselves to drive the agenda in the talk shops that we attend and in the many business meetings that you will be executing over the next couple of days. So let's look at this as low-hanging fruit. What can we do to change the status quo while we are here at the 24th World Economic Forum on Africa? Professor Ncube.
The three important pillars for regional integration are movement of people and talent, movement of capital, and then movement of goods and services. For me, there's some low-hanging fruit in terms of movement of people and talent. We haven't fully exploited that. Get rid of the visas, frankly. And then on capital, in terms of intra-Africa investment, there's a lot going on. There's a lot more that could take place. Let's go for it. When it comes to in terms of imports and exports, that's high-hanging fruit.
Kaz Kavadia.
Yeah, let me just quote something. The Pan-African Competitiveness Forum is having its 6th annual conference later this year, and the theme, enhancing Africa's socio-economic development through cluster competitiveness as a catalyst for transformation, innovation, entrepreneurship, accelerated regional integration, and intra-African trade. I think that captures what we're talking about. And to me, some of the low-hanging fruit, travel issues, borders, IT, I think there's tremendous scope to cooperate, skills and capacity to, one, to build and then to keep the skills and capacity within Africa rather than going away, and then intra-African trade. I think there's a lot to do.
I think, three things for me. Obviously, we've got to deal with the issue of infrastructure. Okay, that's one. The second, the second one that we've got to deal with basically is adding value in Africa. Rather than being an exporter of just resources, we've got to make sure that we have the value in Africa and that the value, resides in Africa. And the third thing, basically is that when we talk about, about compliance, for instance, which Professor Ncube was talking about. One of the underlying things, one of the things that's extremely important, that's most important, is government itself. How does government spend money? Because I'm going to be compliant if I feel that government is spending my money responsibly. If government is not spending my money responsibly, I don't want to be compliant. And that's the reason why I said, give me my money so that I can spend it responsibly. So what I'm saying basically is that we need a government that spends the money that we give to them, through tax, responsibly. Otherwise, don't expect me to be responsible.
So better governance, infrastructure, and beneficiation. Absolutely. Can I get you to give me a third vote on the visa issue? Because I think that is a low-hanging fruit. I personally take this on as a challenge. Can you join us in this forum if we can just start with that first basic step? Let's try and get the policymakers and the decision makers to drop visa requirements on the African continent at this forum. Shay, do I have your go-ahead?
You have my go-ahead, and when I get to South Africa, I also want to see very friendly people. After the visa issue has been dropped, I also want to see very, very, very friendly people, at the immigration desk, that welcomes me as a brother and says to me, you are my brother, instead of, somebody from Nigeria, that is exporting something that's prohibited.
We have a third voice on dropping visa requirements. We've covered a lot of detail on driving competition across the African continent. We've talked about power pools in terms of alleviating energy poverty, which is restricting the continent. Intra-Africa trade sitting at 12%. Let's look to the free movement of people, of goods and services, and let's get that 1.1 billion strong population on the African continent working for us, in Africa, for Africa. Let's look at the financial sector. Improving financial literacy is a key issue. Encouraging the utilization of technology, IT is crucial to the betterment of the broader African population. And then Ingadam as a regional power play and going back into the energy poverty of the continent. Perhaps that's one thing we can spearhead. We can get everybody across the African continent to work together to put forward possibly one of the biggest shows of regional integration and have the opportunity to power half of the African continent. On that point, I leave you. Thank you so much for joining us for this business broadcast. Brand SA and KPMG coming to you from Abuja in Nigeria, where the 24th World Economic Forum on Africa is currently in session.